All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from evil. The best texts, be it a movie, a book, a YouTube video, create a conversation and a dialogue with their viewer. You're not just sitting there passively. They'll hook you in with something that emotionally resonates, that you can relate to. It could be a character in a movie or a book who's going through an experience that mirrors what you're going through in real life. We're not computers. We don't just see information, understand information. There's a whole connection between our mind, our past, our emotions that really help us not just learn, but understand. Now, the secret of one of the most successful stories of all time that has stood the test of time for thousands of years is that it is scattered with these moments of spirituality that can resonate with you regardless of where you are in life. I'm talking, of course, about the Holy Bible, particularly the Gospels of Christ, Matthew, Mark, John, and Luke. Now, I'm not personally a believer, but I did do a rigorous Bible study with a believer who is studying to actually be a pastor, and it had a big impact on me. And I think that modern people have been really made a big mistake by rushing to write off the Bible and not look at like the infinite well of wisdom that is within these Gospels, especially just in moral and human, psychological, and spiritual truths. The full quote from the start of the video actually comes from Matthew 5:37. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. I'd like to do a little bit of spiritual meditation on this in the same way I did in my Bible study. Let's start with the first half of the quote. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Now, when this is phrased within its Bible passage, it's talking about how we oftentimes make oaths on external things. I swear on my country. I swear on my dear grandma. I swear on my nice full head of hair. What's interesting, though, is that you're never swearing on yourself when you're doing those external things. And if that external thing didn't matter to you, would the promise actually matter to you? What the Bible quote is pointing out is that so many of the things that we swear on, we're not actually really fully with our skin in the game. Instead of swearing on something else, just mean it when you say it. And all of that extra swearing on and all of those external factors that we point to are really just signs of indecisiveness and internal unrest with a decision if you need to make such a big public display of, oh, well, look, of course I'm going to stick to my word on this because this other thing is important to me. Now let's talk about the second half of the quote. Anything else comes from the evil one. Oftentimes, a qualified yes or no is just dishonesty. Think of a phrase like, yeah, I'll do that in a few minutes. That translates to, it's never getting done. Or think of when you're talking with a friend about they're trying to convince you to go to an event and you respond with, no, I probably can't go. But in reality, you're just waiting for them to convince you to go. You know, it's going to be a few more back and forth texts and eventually they're going to get you on board and going. But you started with a no that was really just being dishonest with yourself. So yes and no are pretty firm words. And when we sort of qualify them, there's oftentimes a lie that is baked into it and a point of dishonesty and dissonance that is communicated. Finally, let's reflect a little bit on the firmness of yes and no. Because when you combine the fact that all you need to say is yes, and just have a firm direction, either yes or no, with the idea that there's insincerity baked in when we qualify these really strong yes or no statements, I think you can understand how a root of discipline, honesty, trust in yourself comes from committing to your yeses and nos. So I'd like to do an exercise. Reflect on the last time you said yes to yourself, but didn't follow through. What was the circumstance? Why did you want to say yes to yourself? What caused you to not follow through? How did that make you feel? Reflect on the last time that you said no to something, but you ended up reversing that decision. Why did you say no in the first place? What circumstances changed so that your answer to yourself changed? How did reversing that decision make you feel? I think you'll find that saying yes and saying no are pretty powerful promises. And when you go back on those decisions, you're sort of betraying your own will. You're betraying your own intentions. It's a small loss of confidence in yourself. So yes is a powerful promise, and we should be very careful about making it, because that is a commitment bound in our word, and your word is the most important thing you have. A no is a little bit easier to give out, but if you say no, especially with matters of self-control, that can have the same degrading power that a failed yes does. So exercising effective yeses and nos, saying yes only when you mean it, and having your no mean no, is really just the root of discipline, and it's the root of believing in yourself. And if you are a lot more careful about the things you say yes to, only saying yes to what you mean, and diligent about saying no to the things that don't fit in your life, I think you'll find an effect where you're being more honest with yourself, you're building confidence in your own decisions because you're sticking with them, and you're building up discipline simply by when you say your yes, that's all you need. And anything other than the firm yes or no betrays yourself and comes from the desire to just do it tomorrow or to be insincere, ultimately coming from evil. So I hope you enjoyed this spiritual reflection. I'm thinking of doing more, both on lessons from the Bible and maybe other texts like, Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. And if you enjoyed this philosophical discussion about the power of yes and no, and you're looking to start saying yes to the important things in your life, check out my video about becoming him and how visualization can be a powerful motivational tool.